In proportion as travels have been undertaken by persons whose views have been directed to researches in descriptive natural history, geography, or political economy, itineraries have partly lost that unity of composition and that simplicity has characterized those of former ages. It has now become scarcely possible to connect so many different materials with the detail of other events, and that part of a traveler's narrative, which we may call dramatic, gives way to dissertations merely descriptive. The numerous class of readers who prefer agreeable amusement to solid instructions have not gained by the exchange, and I am afraid that the temptation will not be great to follow the course of travelers who are encumbered with the scientific instruments and collections. To give greater variety to my work, I have often interrupted the historical narrative by descriptions. I first represent phenomena in the order in which they appeared, and I afterwards consider them in full of their individual relations. This mode has been successfully followed in the journey of M. de Saussure, whose most valuable work has contributed more than any other to the advancement of science. Often amidst dry discussions on meteorology, it contains many charming descriptions, such as those of the modes of life of the inhabitants of the mountains, the dangers of haunting the chamois, and the sensations felt on the summit of higher Alps. There are details of ordinary life which may be useful to note in the itinerary, because they serve for the guidance of those who afterward journey through the same countries. I have preserved a few, but those who suppress the greater part of those personal incidents which present no particular interest, and which can be rendered amusingly only by the perfection of style. With respect to the country which has been the object of my investigations, I am fully sensible of the great advantages enjoyed by persons who travel in Greece, Egypt, to the banks of the Euphrates, and the islands of the Pacific, in the comparison with those who traverse the continent of America. In the Old World, nations and the distinctions of their civilizations form the principal points in the picture. In the New World, man and his productions almost disappear amidst the stupendous display of wild and gigantic nature. The human race in the New World presents only a few remnants of indigenous hordes, slightly advanced in civilization, where it exhibits merely the uniformity of manners and institutions transplanted by European colonies to foreign shores. Information which relates to the history of our species, to the various forms of government, to monuments of art, to the places full of great remembrances, affect us far more than descriptions of those vast solitudes which seem destined for only for the development of vegetable life, and to be the domain of wild animals. The savages of America, who have been the objects of so many systematic reveries, and on whom M. Volney has lately published some accurate and intelligent observations, inspire less interest since celebrated navigators have been made known to us inhabitants of the South Sea Islands, in whose character we find a striking mixture of perversity and meekness. The state of half civilizations existing upon those islanders give us a particular charm to the description of their manners. A king followed by a numerous suite presents the fruits of his orchard, or a funeral is performed amidst the shade of the lofty forest. Such pictures no doubt have more attraction than those which portray the solemn gravity of the inhabitants of the banks of the Missouri and the Manoranon. America offers an ample field for the labors of a naturalist. On no other part of the globe is he called upon more powerfully by nature to raise himself to the general ideas on the cause of phenomena and their mutual connection, to say nothing of that luxuriousness of vegetation, that eternal spring of organic life, those climates varying by stage as we climb the flanks of the Cordilleras, and those majestic rivers which a celebrated writer, Chateaubriand, had described with such graceful accuracy. The resources which the New World affords for the study of geology and natural philosophy in general have been long since acknowledged. Happy the traveler who may cherish the hope that he has availed himself of the advantages of his position, and that he has added some new facts to the mass of the previously acquired. Since I left America, one of those great revolutions, which at certain periods agitate the human race, has broken out in the Spanish colonies, and seems to prepare new destinies for a population of 14 millions of inhabitants, spreading from the southern to the northern hemisphere, from the shores of Rio de la Plata and Chile to the remotest parts of Mexico. Deep resentments excited by colonial legislation and fostered by mistrustful policy have stained with blood regions which had enjoyed for the space of nearly 3 centuries what I will not call happiness but interrupted peace. At Quito, several of the most virtuous and enlightened citizens have perished, victims of devotion to their country. While I am giving the description of regions, the remembrances of which is so dear to me, I continually light on places which recalls to my mind the loss of a friend. When we reflect on the great political agitations of the New World, we observe that the Spanish Americas are by no means in so favorable position as inhabitants of the United States, the latter having been prepared for independence by a long being enjoyment of the constitutional liberty. Internal dissensions are chiefly to be dreaded in regions where civilization is but slightly rooted, and where, from the influence of climate, forests may soon regain their empire over cleared lands if their culture be abandoned. It may also be feared that during a long series of years, no foreign traveler will be enabled to traverse all the countries which I have visited. This circumstance may perhaps aid to the interest of a work which portrays the state of the greater part of the Spanish colonies at the beginning of the 19th century. I even venture to indulge the hopes that this work will be thought worthy of the attention when passions shall be hushed into peace, and when, under the influence of new social order, these countries shall have made rapid progress in public welfare. If then some pages of my book are snatched from oblivion, and the inhabitants of the banks of the Orinoco and Atabapo will behold with delight populous cities enriched by commerce, and fertile fields cultivated by the lands of free men, and on those very spots where, at the time of my travels, I found only impenetrable forests and inundated lands. Such was the plan that Humboldt proposed to himself when he sat down to write the historical revelation of his travels, and he succeeded perfectly. He produced the finest book of travels ever written, as picturesque as the most perfect masters of description. No writers, living or dead, ever approached him in varied and profound knowledge in what may be called the philosophy of nature. He is nature's own philosopher. Nearly 50 years have elapsed since the publication of his voyage, Men and manners have changed, and taste with them. What was a mere groping after knowledge then is a grasping of it now. Similar books have been written, and excellent ones too. Yet still he holds his ground with all the classes of readers. Nay, he has gained ground, for his book was never so popular as at present.